Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This will be my full House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 7 video. There were a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references, so we'll break it all down. Grab your swords everyone, this week it's how your dragon trains you. So if one comes flying for you, it might just be trying to claim you. Everybody looking for Dragonseeds, if you happen to be able to ride a dragon, make your way to Dragonstone. Careful for spoilers if you have not seen the episode yet. We'll just start at the beginning, work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments. Starting with the episode title. The episode title was called The Red Sowing, which is a term taken directly from the Fire and Blood books. The sowing of the seeds, essentially the Dragonseeds event that we see play out through the episode. The reason why the books refer to it as the Red Sowing specifically is mostly because of the red blood flowing from all the people who got eaten by the dragons when they tried to bond with them and failed. Now we only see Vermithor snacking on a bunch of the Dragonseeds, but in the books, people tried to bond with a bunch of different dragons that were available on Dragonstone. The wild dragons were also around too, like Sheepstealer was around as well. They've changed a lot of Sheepstealer's plot, who we see with Rhaena up in the Vale, like she's looking for Sheepstealer during the episode. I'll talk about that when we get to that part of the episode. That whole stretch of story is completely different, like they're giving her a bunch of Nettle storyline from the books. But I think there was a brief reference to someone who might have been their nod to Nettles, even though I don't expect to see her actually on the show, like a character who's close to what Nettles would have been on the show. They didn't change the opening intro scene that much. They've only removed a couple of scenes from the tapestry, I think just to keep the overall runtime, like the length of the tapestry itself the same. So like the intro doesn't turn into like 10 minutes a full episode. My guess is that with the finale, they'll add a scene for the sowing of the seeds with the new dragon riders in their dragons to the end of the tapestry. Like they'll end the season with that scene in the tapestry. The actual opening scene starts with Rhaenyra and Arrax meeting Addam, Hull, and Seasmoke on Driftmark and her just sussing him out, because if it wasn't clear, I mean they kind of imply here during their meeting that she's never actually met him before, has no idea who he is, and she thinks that he's part of Team Green. Now because she's so famous in the realm, pretty much anybody and their sister would know who Rhaenyra is, like, oh, you are Rhaenyra, the rightful queen. He says he only wants to serve her. He seems very contrite, like he's kind of afraid here. He doesn't know what's going on. Like, I just want an opportunity to serve, and I want to ride this dragon because riding dragons looks like it's really cool. But even without all that stuff, like even if he weren't a dragon rider, he's Corlys's bastard son, he grew up on Driftmark, he would have been expected to support Rhaenyra even without the dragon, just because of Corlys and House Valyrian's connection to Rhaenyra. He explains what we were all joking about last week. He did not claim Seasmoke. Seasmoke claimed him. It wasn't how to train your dragon, it was how your dragon trains you. That's kind of the way things go down with the other Dragonseeds, Ulf White and Hugh Hammer later in the episode, especially Ulf White's scene, which they play a little bit more comedically. Here's the weird thing though, he lies and doesn't tell her that he's Corlys's bastard. He does know the truth, like he knows that Corlys is his father. Corlys knows that he is his bastard too, as we see later in the episode, but they just haven't openly acknowledged it yet, like they haven't had a conversation about it yet. My assumption about that, the reason why he's hiding it here and why Corlys doesn't acknowledge it later, like he keeps it secret from the rest of the Black Council too, is just because they want to turn it into a much bigger moment when all the Dragonseeds are together. She assumes immediately that he's of some Targaryen ancestry in some way, but she can't explain it. She thought this was impossible. The way they're explaining all the dragon bonding, the Valyrian history during this period, is that everything that she knows, she read in books, but in a previous episode, they introduced the idea, as Jace said to her, that a lot of the Valyrian history that they have in their library of Dragonstone was doctored largely to help keep the Valyrians in power, the Targaryens in power, because, as Daemon said during Season 1, dreams didn't make us kings, dragons made us kings. It's like having a nuclear weapon, so you don't want anybody and their sister to think that they'd be able to claim a nuclear weapon on the street. It sounds like one of the ways that the Valyrians kept themselves in power for so many centuries, thousands of years, was to make people think that only dragon lords could claim dragons, when that's not the case. As long as you have some blood from a Dragon Lord house, it doesn't have to be House Targaryen, it could be any house from ancient Valyria that were part of the Dragon Lords, then you also have the potential to claim a dragon. This is actually important for explaining where Addam Hull's Valyrian blood that allows him to claim a dragon actually came from, because technically Corlys Velaryon shouldn't have any of that Dragon Lord blood in his veins, which he says later. We'll talk about this in a second. There's some technicalities, but I think the episode gave us enough clues to explain it. But part of the idea is the show is saying that he does have Dragon Lord blood in his veins from ancient Valyria. Then inside Alicent's room, she talks to the Grand Maester about how her whole life has been a lie, led to nothing. She's tried to be a good girl, team rules, team follow the rules her entire life. That was the whole reason why she got pissed off at Rhaenyra, because Alicent felt like she'd sacrificed everything her entire life, like she sacrificed her body to Viserys because her father told her, you're supposed to marry Viserys, like Viserys chose her, so she married him because she was told to marry him, not because she wanted to marry him or have all these children. Now that her own son Aemond tells her that she's essentially worthless, she's useless, like she's of no help to him, she feels like her life has no meaning and wants to go to the Kingswood, seeming like she wants to kill herself. That's probably why she only took Rickard Thorne, her personal Kingsguard. He replaced Criston Cole. Like, Criston Cole used to be her personal bodyguard when she was the queen, but because he's the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, technically he should be the guard for Helaena. He just delayed that after Helaena became the queen, like after Aegon took the Iron Throne, because he was getting it on with Alicent. The place where they go, the Kingswood, is the place where they went on that hunting trip during Season 1. Then in the courtyard, Larys Strong and Jasper Wilde are watching as Aemond sends the members of the Kingsguard involved in the riot near the Sept last week to the wall, making them all take the black. They're blaming them for letting the riot escalate to a full-blown attack and almost getting Alicent and Helaena killed. Was it really the Kingsguard's fault, or was it just Aemond looking for an excuse to get rid of some of these lickspittles? Because some of these Kingsguard that he sends to the wall, making them take the black, were friends of Aegon's, who he named to the Kingsguard because they were his friends, and he wanted to surround himself with his friends, which Aemond then mocked him for, calling them lickspittles. Here's an interesting detail, though. Larys Strong actually advises Jasper not to tell Aemond about the dragon and the dragon rider. I think mostly because Larys Strong really, really hates Aemond now and is looking for revenge. Like, any chance he can find to kill Aemond, he will take it. And I think he's just playing this four-dimensional chess game in his head, because later Aemond clocks him and he kind of clocks Aemond like, I'm watching you. So part of the idea, I think, is just looking for different ways to get rid of Aemond and replace Aegon, putting him back on the Iron Throne. That's a big part of the episode too, with him trying to rush Aegon back to health, at least enough so that he can sit on the Iron Throne. Notice when they're talking too, they actually give us a whole bunch of exposition and some extra history that we didn't get in previous episode. They say that it couldn't have been Rhaena to claim Seasmoke because she was almost eaten by Seasmoke when she was 14 years old, meaning that that was the dragon that Rhaenyra was talking about Rhaena trying and failing to claim in an earlier episode. Jasper claims the information about the new dragon rider was passed along from person to person through the King's Landing rumor mill all the way from Driftmark. He mentions from a fisherman, which they use later in the episode for some imagery, like you see fish being passed along on Driftmark, and then a fisherman coming when they're looking for the Dragonseeds to start bringing them to Dragonstone. Basically the idea that the small folk are talking about people claiming dragons because they were talking about this rumor mill before they even set out word to look for Dragonseeds. But this whole King's Landing rumor mill thing is meant to set up the sowing of the seeds, where the small folk start sneaking their way to Dragonstone to try their hand at claiming dragons. This early mention, too, is also meant to imply that the small folk are talking a lot about the dragons, meaning that they're slowly turning more and more against the Greens. Then we see Martin Rhaen of House Rhaen being escorted to the wall. Like I said, goodbye Lickspittle. He was one of Aegon's friends that was named to the Kingsguard, who Aemond absolutely hates. Criston Cole also kind of hates, too. So it seems like I said, they were looking for an excuse to get rid of him and some other Aegon's friends on the Kingsguard. The funny thing about this, though, is that you'd think this would be a punishment, like you're punished, instead of being executed, you're sent to the wall, allowed to take the black. Martin Rhaen here and Aegon's friends who are going to the wall have a better chance of surviving now at the wall than they do in King's Landing, where they've been, because of what's happening with the war right now. The only thing they'd have to really worry about at the wall is wildlings, because the White Walkers aren't super active during this part of the timeline. Back at Dragonstone, we see Seasmoke and Syrax flying back together. Corlys instantly realizes the mystery person is his bastard son when they say, we don't know who this is, it's just a person in your employ from Driftmark. He's like, oh, it's gotta be one of those bastards of mine. Like I said, though, I think the reason why he hides the fact, like he pretends like he doesn't know who it is because they're saving it for some big reveal. There's this whole storyline with Jace during the episode where he gets super pissed off at the idea of the small folk being Dragonseeds, because later we find out that he feels like because he's a bastard too, the only thing that really makes him special, that like helps him keep his place in the royal family here, is the fact that he does have a dragon. And if anyone or like a bunch of people can claim dragons, then he won't be special anymore. Meaning that the rest of the Targaryen household, like the Greens that are left over, or even other Dragonseeds, other Targaryen bastards, would potentially challenge him for the Iron Throne when it becomes his time to take the throne. Here's the thing though, there are a couple Dragonseeds they imply are not Targaryen bastards, but they're coming from different Dragon Lord houses from ancient Valyria that were not Targaryens. But the vast majority of them are meant to be illegitimate Targaryens. When you become a dragon rider, you're instantly elevated in your status, like you get a title, you get legitimized, it becomes a really, really big deal. Hugh Hammer talks about this phenomenon later, like if I become a dragon rider, they'll make you a lady, we'll get anything we ever wanted, we'll get all this money, all these resources. Rhaenyra takes a hard pass on the Black Council meeting because she's with Mysaria talking it over how they're going to deal with the rest of the Dragonseeds and just the whole concept of the Dragonseeds in general. When she says the dragon must sense Addam holds Targaryen blood in his veins, that's a callback to Jon Snow and Drogon when he met for the first time. She mentions finding more riders for Vermithor and Silverwing. Remember, they're not really thinking about Sheepstealer right now. That's going to be a bit of a wild card, which I think they're saving for the finale. Like, oh wow, we got another really big dragon. Currently, she says she only has Arrax at the beginning of the episode here, and that wouldn't be enough against Aemond and Vhagar to set up the big reveal at the end of the episode where she challenges Aemond, or kind of challenges him, with 3 dragons. She thinks at least at this point in the episode, the reason Steffon Darklyn failed to claim a dragon was because he had too little Targaryen blood in him, but Mysaria reminds her about the many, many Targaryen illegitimate children out there that have been born over the years. She claims there are 4 score that she knows about right now in present day, and probably way more than that, just because Targaryens love to have themselves some sex. 2 of the biggest qualities that dragon riders that we've seen on House of the Dragon and in the lore of Game of Thrones just in general have is that they love to ride dragons and they're super horny. When she says some of them probably live on Dragonstone under their noses, that's a reference to the books. On the show, they've changed it so that a lot of the characters that live in King's Landing and are Dragonseeds actually lived on Dragonstone in the books. Previously, she'd only looked at other highborn houses, expecting that there might be more loyalty for them, but Mysaria basically explains that that means nothing. Like, the small folk are much more likely to be loyal to her, and to be fair, she's also kind of wrong too. Like, just because they're small folk doesn't automatically mean that they'll be loyal. There's a lot of stuff we can't talk about because it kind of gets into spoilers, but one of the biggest names of the Game of Thrones, talking about the Game of Thrones in the grand sense, is betrayal. Like, it wouldn't be a Game of Thrones show like House of the Dragon if there wasn't betrayal. Allegiances that are formed can be just as easily broken. Rhaenyra then references how the realm treated her bastard sons, Jace, Luke, and Joffrey, which is why she's totally fine looking for more "let us raise an army of bastards," as she says. She gives Addam his own room at the castle, one of the early signs of his big upgrade in life. Corlys comes to see him, who seems like he's pleasantly surprised that he's here, like, wow, congratulations on the promotion. Happy to let him quit his job so that he can be a dragon rider for Rhaenyra. They both know the truth of his parentage, but I guess they're just waiting, like I said, to have Corlys openly acknowledge it to him, and they'll actually have a talk about it, like, yes, you are my son, and I legitimize you. But technically, Rhaenyra will be the one to legitimize him. Usually it's the king or queen that legitimizes an illegitimate son in the realm. Probably the best previous example of that is during Game of Thrones when Daenerys legitimized Gendry, making him Gendry Baratheon, Lord of House Baratheon. So I'm expecting a similar moment with Rhaenyra and Addam. Back at Harrenhal, Oscar Tully, now Lord of Riverrun, thanks to Alys Rivers, returns with the rest of the River Lords. The bird flying in the distance also made me think of Alys Rivers' owl, but I don't think that's an owl flying in the distance. Just a reminder that she probably killed Grover Tully to hasten things along. Daemon reiterates that he wants Oscar Tully to marshal an army of the Riverlands for him. They joke about their last meeting and how Daemon was kind of pissed off at him because he didn't do anything or could not do anything to help him. You were not useful to me before, you are very useful now. When he replies that he's green in these matters, it's a bit of a joke on the Sesame Street of it all, because George R. R. Martin named a bunch of Game of Thrones characters after Sesame Street characters, like Oscar here is named after Oscar the Grouch, and Oscar is literally green on Sesame Street. He makes fun of Daemon a little, who seems pleasantly surprised, like he's kind of jesting with him a little bit, but kind of impatient. They acknowledge that House Tully is willing to uphold the support to Rhaenyra that they pledged back when Rhaenyra was officially named heir during Season 1. But the big holdup, the big reason for their meeting here is because the River Lords want justice against the Blackwoods, and they all hate Daemon. Love the fact that they're all brought together, like all these warring River Lords that kind of hate each other, brought together over their hate of Daemon. The reason why Daemon holds their meeting in the Godswood under the Heart Tree is because he tries to play on their love of tradition and the old ways. So he's invoking the old ways, the old gods, so to speak, thus the Weirwoods. Harrenhal is built on an old Weirwood forest that was cut down. They're right near the Godswood and the Isle of Faces, probably one of the most magical places in the old gods' power in Westeros. It's part of the reason why Daemon is having all these spooky visions right now. Love the way they play this scene too, with Willem Blackwood seeming like he's got the upper hand here, like, I've gotten justice against the Blackwoods, I have them here. Then Oscar turns on a dime and basically orders Daemon to kill him if he wants their armies. You can kind of see the instant calculus going on in Daemon's head, like boom, he barely hesitates and then swings Dark Sister, his Valyrian sword, to chop Willem Blackwood's head off. When he walks back through the halls of Harrenhal, he sees that black goat again that he saw before, which is meant to be a sign and portent that magic is around this place. Because as he's walking into his room, he's also walking into another vision of Viserys on his Weirwood bed. He's meant to look exactly like he did in episode 8 right before he died, the last time that Daemon saw him alive. Him holding the crown is also meant to be a bit of a callback to the crown falling off of his head while he was sitting on the Iron Throne and Daemon putting it back on his head. They talk about how Viserys never wanted it, how he regrets the crown, how it crushes whoever wears it, and Daemon is starting to come to the realization that maybe he doesn't want it as much as he thought he did his whole life. Part of the idea of all the lessons that Daemon is getting in his Weirwood visions is teaching him compassion and empathy for other people, but also on the other side of this coin, I think they're trying to juxtapose this with Rhaenyra's arc, where Rhaenyra is starting to become a little bit more like Daemon. So like Daemon's slowly becoming more like Rhaenyra, more understanding, more compassionate. Rhaenyra is becoming a little bit more like Daemon, more stabby, so that eventually they'll reunite and they will take King's Landing back together. Daemon kind of foreshadowed this in a previous episode where he said that he's headed to King's Landing with his army that he's trying to marshal and his dragon Caraxes. Rhaenyra also talked about wanting to go to King's Landing to take it with her dragon. She's got the Dragonseeds now. She's acting more like Daemon. Daemon's more compassionate. It sounds like he's more willing to work with Rhaenyra and let her be queen, serve her. All these character arcs build into the finale where they finally come together again. Back in Aegon's room, we see he's practicing walking. He's healing way faster on the show than he did in the books. They talked about this in previous episodes. The showrunner said that they're compressing the timeline a lot. In the books, Aegon was basically hopped up on Milk of the Poppy in his bed for about a year. What it seems like they're doing, though, is they're pulling a Tyrion during the original Game of Thrones series. So if you remember back during the original show, during Season 2, after Blackwater, Tyrion in the books got his entire nose cut off, but on the show, they just gave him a really big gash. All because they didn't want him walking around for a bunch more seasons with no nose. I think the reason why House of the Dragon is speeding up Aegon's recovery is because it's only going to be about 4 seasons of the show, and they want him to be a much bigger part of the story, more active very soon, by Season 3. You also look, his injuries don't look nearly as bad as they're described in the books. Like I said, pulling a Tyrion, like making his injuries much less on the show. Larys Strong genuinely seems like he cares about Aegon here when he tells the Grand Maester not to get him walking again by himself because Larys went through something similar growing up. He gives him a little pep talk, and like I said, seems like he's trying to rush his recovery so that he can get back on the Iron Throne and get back to the job of being king, so that they can also get rid of Aemond, because he really does not like Aemond. Back at Corlys' shipyard, he orders Harrenhal to marshal a group of ships to help ferry all the potential Dragonseeds from King's Landing to Dragonstone. Notice how Alan is surprised to learn that his brother Addam got Seasmoke. Like, wow, Dragon Rider, I guess that means that I could potentially be a Dragon Rider too. But here's the thing. When Corlys suggests that he try his hand at also becoming a Dragon Rider because he's of the same blood of old Valyria that Harrenhal was, he briefly alludes to their mother, not saying who she was, getting a little closer to acknowledging that they're his sons, even though both of the brothers know the truth right now. He kind of implies that the dragon riding blood, like the Dragon Lord bloodline in their veins, passed to them via their mother, not via Corlys. Like their mother might have been a Targaryen bastard or part of a line from another Dragon Lord house from ancient Valyria. He's also right when he says that the Valerians in general are from ancient Valyria, but their house was not a Dragon Lord house, like they didn't have dragons, they were a seafaring family. There were so many questions about this when we learned that Addam was going to be the one to ride Seasmoke. Like, how can it be? Was it his mother, his father? Like, where did it come from? Where did the lineage come from? Basically, it's Corlys implying that it came through Addam's mother's line. But when Alan claims that he's of sea and salt, this is meant to be very overt. Like, most of you probably realize what's going on here. That's a callback to what Baela told Corlys. She was not of salt and sea, so she couldn't be his heir. I think this is to give Corlys the idea to name Alan as his heir, eventually getting him legitimized or having Rhaenyra legitimize him. So both brothers will get big promotions, essentially. Up in the Vale, we meet our next Dragonseed. Like, we're going around seeing all the different Dragonseeds in this episode. Rhaena, who walks through, I think, the gates of the moon here, closer to the castle. The bloody gates are a little bit further out. Jane Arryn is watching them go. She's sending them to the gay abandoned ship, which will take her, Rhaenyra's sons, their dragons, and dragon eggs to Pentos. She seems happy to be rid of her, too. Like, Jane Arryn does not have a happy look on her face. Like, good riddance, get out of here. Rhaena takes off running, I think mostly because she doesn't want to go and she wants to try her hand at claiming Sheepstealer, which is why she runs stopping at the burnt patch of sheep bones. But because they cut away from this, I think they're just saving her claiming Sheepstealer for the finale, so there'll be like a real big moment they'll go out on. In the Kingswood, Alicent makes it sound like she's planning to kill herself. That's why she probably says she might not ever return to King's Landing. I won't return because I'll probably be dead. A lot of you also probably recognize Rickard Thorne from One Piece. He was just on One Piece Netflix. But I think the idea is that she's come out here to end her life, and that's why she's only brought Rickard Thorne. Otherwise, she would have brought a bunch of other retainers with her. Then Jace has it out with Rhaenyra, kind of explaining why he's so worried and mad about what's happening with the Dragonseeds, because he thought that having a dragon was his one way to keep himself in line for the Iron Throne in the family. Otherwise, the family might disown him or try to get rid of him or kill him because he is a bastard. They make it sound like this is the first time they've ever actually had this kind of conversation about Harwin Strong and his actual parentage. They knew that Harwin Strong was their real father, but I think that Rhaenyra never really talked about it that way. Like, she kind of alluded to it and kind of confirmed things to them, but didn't really talk about Harwin Strong. He mentions Aegon the Conqueror in Aegon's prophecy as Rhaenyra is reading the same book open to the same page of Aegon and his two sister wives from earlier this season. They keep leaving books like this open to the same pages, like the page of Visenya with Vhagar. Very on-the-nose references, like they want you to notice a lot of these Easter eggs. She jests that she needs the Dragonseeds because if she were to try to fight Aemond and Vhagar on Syrax by herself, she'd lose instantly. Then when she suggests Jace fight them on Vermax, that reminds him of Lucerys versus Aemond and his dragon. It'd be the same thing. They would lose in like 2 seconds flat. Vhagar would crunch them faster than Vermithor crunched all those Dragonseeds later in this episode. It wouldn't even be a fight. Part of the whole idea with Rhaenyra is that Team Black does not have ground forces. They cannot fight the Green Army, but they do have many, many dragons, which could potentially help them completely wipe the board clean, just either intimidate or absolutely wreck the Greens. It'd be like if you didn't have an army, but you had an arsenal of nuclear weapons. Then Mysaria gives the orders to Alan Hull and they begin sneaking everyone to Dragonstone. There are a couple Easter eggs in the background here too when they go around looking for different dragon seeds. The fish they give to Alinda Massey is another callback to the rumor mill that came from the fishermen about Seasmoke and Addam Hull. Notice when Alinda Massey is walking through the streets in that red cloak, in the background you see the washerwoman with the white hair. There's a random white-haired man. They're all over King's Landing, just like Mysaria said, like all over the place. They have a bit of a funny moment where Ulf White is in the same tavern and hears about what's happening from his friend and starts to make excuses about why he shouldn't go because it's not 100% that he is Baelon the Brave son. Like, it could have been a lie. Like, I think that I'm his son, but it could be a lie. In the books, there were meant to be many people who did lie, claiming to be Dragonseeds, and promptly got themselves eaten. Then we get a really cool scene with Hugh Hammer where we get some more lore about the history of the Targaryen family. They explain that his daughter has died, R.I.P., after the events of the riot. When his wife keeps wanting to go to Tumbletown, I think that gets into some book stuff we can't really talk about because it might get into spoilers, but Tumbletown, I think, will become an important place in the future. He explains to her about how they'll gain so much wealth and status if he becomes a dragon rider because it's such a huge deal. And he starts talking about the history of his lineage. He didn't know who his father was, but he did know his mother, who was a working girl in Flea Bottom and had silver hair, meaning that his mother was the person from House Targaryen. Here's the really important part. A lot of you probably picked up on this. When he says that her brother's boys were Viserys and Daemon, that means that Baelon the Brave was her brother, his mother's brother. I think what they're saying here is that Hugh Hammer's mother was Sarah Targaryen, the younger sister of Baelon the Brave, and one of Jaehaerys' many daughters. It'd be a small change that they're making on the show, but they've changed a lot of stuff from the books already, so this would be no different. When she was younger, Sarah Targaryen, member of the royal household, caused a big scandal by sleeping around Flea Bottom like she was horny on Maine, so she got it on a lot around King's Landing. King Jaehaerys was so pissed off that he disowned her and kicked her out of the royal family. In the books, she was said to have gone to the east and became a madam at a brothel. She became a very prominent person over there, but I think what they're saying on the show is that instead of going to the east, she just went to Flea Bottom and started working at one of the brothels there, and that's how she eventually gave birth to Hugh Hammer, so his mother was a former member of the royal household. She had just been disowned by King Jaehaerys when he was still alive. Then we see him walking to the boats in these lines with all these other people, all these other Dragonseeds potentially. This person behind him might be the show winking at Nettles from the books, because I don't think they're actually going to do Nettles on the show, so this might be like the closest reference we get to her. For the most part, they've given Nettles' storyline to Rhaena. In the books, Nettles is the one to claim Sheepstealer. Then we see Alicent walking out into the lake in white, floating there, making this sign like she's on the cross, so to speak. A lot of religious iconography here, but you have to remember that it's the Feast of the Seven, like she's meant to be a very religious person. And for just a second, I actually thought that she was going to try and drown herself, but the way they cut away from this scene here, we'll see what winds up happening with Alicent, but I don't think that she's going to die anytime soon, like she will eventually go back to King's Landing. Then at Dragonstone, Rhaenyra watches all the people trying to show up to claim a dragon. It's kind of like her ordering Uber Eats for the dragons because most of them wind up getting eaten by Vermithor. Somebody orders some takeout for the dragons, they're getting really hungry in their caves. Notice that the dragon keepers also revolt, claiming that this is kind of a perversion, like the dragons are sacred and you're just treating them like common things, common playthings. When he mentions they're not for the games of men, that felt like a callback to the Game of Thrones, like talking about A Song of Ice and Fire just in general. Then Rhaenyra basically gives them the fine print, like, look, this is what's really going on here. You're probably gonna get eaten, so just prepare for that. When she mentions a lot of her previously held beliefs about how dragons and dragon bonding work is absolutely wrong, that's a callback to Jace referencing that High Valyrian histories having been doctored. Like the things that they think they know are all wrong. You still need to be from a bloodline from one of the Dragon Lord houses of ancient Valyria, but you don't have to have pure blood. You don't have to be part of the royal family or anything like that. They try their hand at Vermithor first. Everybody been wondering all season when are they going to bring Vermithor back because he's been in all the trailers. She is correct, he's called the Bronze Fury. Vermithor used to be King Jaehaerys' dragon, and he was actually hatched from an egg that was put in Jaehaerys' crib when he was a baby. They go back to the Dragonmont. She calls out to Vermithor and High Valyrian. If it wasn't clear, she wasn't talking to them like she was facing them. I love the way they have the reveal of Vermithor too, and he comes out of the shadows. And she's not talking to the people here, she's talking to Vermithor, like saying, come here, Vermithor, in High Valyrian. It'd be like you calling your cat from across the room, like, come over here. Notice his big, bushy grandpa dragon beard, like they've really upgraded the special effects for him this season. We only saw him briefly in shadow during season 1. Notice he's also got a scar on his lip from earlier battles. The sounds he makes when he cozies up to Rhaenyra are similar to the sounds that Drogon made when he cozied up to Jon Snow during Game of Thrones. Like, he's totally cool with Rhaenyra. I like you, you're cool. This person is meant to be Silver Dennis, who is from the books. He winds up being the first to get eaten, R.I.P., and a bunch of other people here. Like, he just goes for all on snack time. Like, this is a buffet. Thank you for bringing these people. I'm so hungry right now. But notice when he extends his head over the crowd, kind of sussing everyone out, he stops when he gets to Hugh Hammer, like his giant dragon eye spots Hugh Hammer, all because he can just kind of sense the vibes coming from him, like, you're the guy. When they all start falling off the platform to the ground, you notice there's a Weirwood tree growing nearby, because obviously Weirwood's a very big thing. Hugh Hammer tries to run for it. Love the way this scene goes down too, where you have Vermithor in the background just randomly grabbing people, having his snacks as Hugh Hammer is running about. Like, he finds the girl, tries to save her by distracting him, but then finds out that it's successful because Vermithor is like, you're the guy, I'm claiming you. Love the look that goes between them too, like he's loving Hugh Hammer's vibe. Love the rage coming from you, love the energy, we can be friends, we can be bros. You even see Vermithor start to smile a giant dragon smile too. Then they play Rhaenyra's theme music that they played in the previous episode when she sent all her ships to King's Landing with the food. They also end the episode on this too, where she stands defiantly against Aemond and Vhagar with the 3 dragons. Then we get a funny, like a comedic dragon claiming scene with Ulf White stumbling into Silverwing's cave. And it's kind of a similar experience here too, where Silverwing winds up being the one to claim him. He does not claim Silverwing. Love the slow reveal here too. It's kind of comedic too, with him walking up next to her, not noticing that she's there because she's kind of camouflaged against the cave. Silverwing used to be the dragon of Queen Alysanne, King Jaehaerys' queen, and she'd been a mated pair with Vermithor. Nobody's ridden either of them since Jaehaerys and Alysanne died. Really love the design that they went with for Silverwing to make her feel very distinct from the other dragons. You also notice that her horns on her head kind of makes it look like she's wearing a crown, like she was Queen Alysanne's dragon. Very regal seeming dragon. Silverwing and Vermithor are also the parents of a lot of the dragons on the show right now. They have that comedic scene of her nuzzling him, kind of pushing him over, and he kind of realizes what's going on, like, oh, okay, I'm not dead, you're claiming me, this is great, I'm survived. If you haven't seen the actor who plays Ulf White, he's mostly known for doing comedy stuff, which is why they play a lot of his scenes as comedic scenes, like especially this dragon claiming scene. Then I love the way they reveal Silverwing and Ulf White flying over King's Landing later. Like back at the Green Council, they mention Ormond Hightower, Lord of House Hightower. He's Otto Hightower's older brother, still having problems with House Beesbury in their army because they're trying to get revenge over the death of Lord Beesbury during Season 1. Justice for Beesbury. They confirmed that Daeron's dragon, Tessarion, has started to fly and Daeron will join the war shortly. Then Aemond starts to hear the cries of the small folk coming from King's Landing. There are dragons near. Like, everybody run, everybody get inside. And he sees Ulf White and Silverwing just flying all over the city. This dragon riding scene is a little bit like Jon Snow's first time trying to ride Rhaegal, freaking out the whole time. Although Ulf White seems like he's having a better time of it than Jon Snow did. Like, Jon Snow was terrified. Then Aemond quickly hops on Vhagar after them. The reason why Vhagar is in the countryside is because she's way too big to roost in the actual dragon pit. She couldn't even live there even if Aemond wanted her to. She's gotten so big that she's become an outdoor cat. Then we get that cool scene of Aemond going after them on Dragonstone and finding Rhaenyra with the 3 other dragons, Vermithor, Silverwing, and Arrax, as she stares defiantly at him. This is her being a little bit more warlike, a little more Daemon-like, come at me, bro. And the whole idea here is that this whole time on House of the Dragon, Aemond has thought himself invincible because he has the biggest, most powerful dragon. So that's why he's been lording over everyone this whole time. Like, I am so amazing because I have the best dragon. But even he's not so stupid as to try and fight 3 dragons on once, and Vermithor, to boot, is almost as big as Vhagar just by himself. They end the episode with her theme music, and like I said, kind of pushing into the finale, is we have the idea that Daemon has his army of river lords. They want to take King's Landing. Rhaena seems like she's about to claim Sheepstealer, so everything is kind of coming to a head heading into Season 3. There was so much stuff happening in the episode. If you spotted any Easter eggs or references that I didn't talk about in the episode, write them below in the comments. My Episode 8 trailer video will post next, and my full Episode 8 finale video, big reminder it is the finale next week, will post after they release it. Still a little salty that we're only getting 8 episodes this season, but whatever. There's also still a bunch of stuff left over from Comic-Con, a bunch of Comic-Con trailers. I'll try to do videos for those as quickly as possible. Everybody click here for that Episode 8 finale video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for all my other House of the Dragon videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.